Mike, any concern with the injury with Adolphus Washington lingering? With Mike Bennett, the groin injury lingered last year. Any concern with that with Adolphus, or how serious is the injury as far as
No, I don't think so. I think we trust our training staff. We trust our doctors, and we're just going to put him out there and see what he can do. And we're not going to push him, but when he's ready to play, we'll have him back in there.
Talk about that fine line of football players wanting to play and be tough guys. I mean, Mike Bennett said he rushed himself back last year. Luke Fickell played in the Rose Bowl with a torn pec. Where's that line you have to walk with these guys of being tough guys but not rushing themselves back?
Well, I think it's in combination of the player, the injury. There's a lot of things that go involved in when you can play and when you can't play and when you shouldn't play. And I think that every time we go out there, whether it's practice or the games, we have to understand what we can do and what we can't. And I think that we have to be careful. With guys, when you talk about groins and going out there and practicing a little too soon, or whatever we may have as injuries as players, I think you have to be careful and make sure that you worry about what you can do as opposed to what you can't do. I think that as a player, you get caught up in what I can't do this, I can't do that. But if you can worry and focus on what you can do, so I can do this, I can do these individual drills, I can do this team period, but concentrate on what you can do as opposed to what you can't.
And last thing for me, it must be nice to lose a guy like Adolphus, but you plug Joey Bosa in there, and he has a tremendous game. You can talk about Joey a little bit.
Well, his development was much faster than I think a lot of people thought it would be. Certainly, he's a much smarter football player as a freshman than I had ever envisioned. I think physically we thought he could come in here and play, play at this level, play at Ohio State, play against the type of opponents that we're going to play against. But it was his mental approach and then how quick he picked it up mentally that I think surprised me.
Front row left, Rusty.
Mike, does it make it more difficult your job this week because you're not playing Wisconsin or Michigan or a top name team? You're playing an FCS team. The players know it too.
Well, I think the players know it. Everybody knows it. But our job as football players is to go out there, be ready to play 60 minutes of football, a physical football, tough football, Ohio State football. We got run around a little bit last week with the amount of plays we played and who we played against and the offense we played against. So it doesn't matter. It's just every week is a different opponent. It's a new challenge. And regardless, I think you want to go out there and we only have guys that Michael Bennett started 4 football games at Ohio State. Noah Spencer started 3 football games at Ohio State. So from our standpoint, it's going to be real easy. There's a lot to fix. There's a lot to work on, and that's going to continue on Saturday.
Front row middle, Bill.
Bill Rabinowitz, Dispatch. You had to replace 4 starters, obviously. How far along in that progression, that development, are you? Are you happy with the growth of the line?
I think we're all happy. I think we started in the spring. We had most of those guys here in the spring. Joey wasn't here in the spring. Michael Hill wasn't here. But we had most of those guys that are playing for us in the spring. And it really started then, focusing on what we need to do, what we would have to do, treating every weekend like a game, every Saturday scrimmage like a game. Wasn't a game, but that's how we approached it in our mindset, and I think it helped us. And now we've gotten off to a good start.
You said there's a lot of work to do. What's the 1 or 2 things that you want to see next?
Well, I think technique is always important. I think you look at pass rush technique is things that we're always going to continue to work on. Run game fundamentals, where our hands are, our hands inside, are we hitting on a rise? All those little things. We talk about effort, toughness, the ability to strain, and also the ability to play with some technique. So those are the things we work on every single day. Doesn't change.
Front row, Tim.
Tim May, Columbus Dispatch. Hey, Mike, is there concern coming out of this game about the tackling that went on Saturday night, or do you couch it with the attack y'all were facing? I mean, with the wide stuff.
Well, everybody's going to force you to tackle in space. I think that's why, that's what happens in the National Football League. That's what happens in college. Teams are going to force you to tackle in space. Nobody, it's easy to tackle a guy in the B gap, but when you get players that are displaced and you get, receivers that are split out, the defenders the space between defenders gets further and further. So, we all have to tackle in space. There's times where defensive ends have to tackle in space, or cornerbacks or slots or safeties, that we all have to tackle in space. So we talk about, trying to close the gap, trying to be aggressive, trying to get other guys running the ball. And a lot of times we did that, and the times that we didn't do that and get a lot of guys running the ball, you give up yards after those missed tackles. You know, we're talking about trying to keep teams under, you know, having less than 10 missed tackles a game. And if we can do that, we're probably going to win the game. But the yards after those missed tackles is kind of what kills you.
I know you don't lean on this, but I'm going to ask anyway, though. You know, at this time last year, Urban Meyer was very concerned about the tackling. Today, he didn't seem as concerned, but you always have to work on that, I guess. I mean,
well, I think it's a concern. I think, you know, just from our room, from the defensive line room alone, we had 4. You know, that's something that we have to take advantage of every opportunity we have to tackle the guy with the ball. We don't get as many opportunities just because of where we are. And so when we miss 4, that's 4 opportunities that we could have had to potentially have a big play, tackle for loss, you know, tackling the quarterback, whatever it may be. So we had 4 come out of our room. So that's where we have to start.
Back row right, Clay.
Coach Vrabel, is there anybody who's come any further than Chris Carter? And how would you have seen him playing? Was it 76 snaps even 2-3 weeks ago? And how did you get him from point A to point B?
Well, I don't think that there's a lot of great individual stories on this football team and the development since, you know, Coach Meyer's been here. But Chris was a guy that hadn't done much in his career, was eating free, was going to school for free and really not earning much. He got his weight under control, started going to class, started taking those things seriously, started listening to what we were trying to coach, had a good spring, got his weight down, reported to camp, and then really made every single practice and got better and better and better. And with that, you get rewarded with snaps in the game, and you get to play, and you get to go out there and contribute. That started against Buffalo, matured against San Diego State. And then last week, the opportunities that he got, you know, made a sack, made a tackle for no gain. So we need to continue to get him in there. He's a big athlete that can help us. He wants to be out there now. He acts like he wants to be out there. He comes into this building when he doesn't have to be. He's watching film, and he's getting treatment and doing things that good college football players do.
Front row, Austin.
Mike, is there a difference between a Viper and a Leo?
No, we just thought Viper was a little cooler.
That's the whole motivation. It seems so. Is everybody embracing a more aggressive sounding nickname? I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. We'll take a vote. We'll put it up on social media what we want to name it.
Front row left, Doug.
Mike, I know it's the other side of the ball, but with what Kenny Guiton has done, are there any lessons that all players can take away of how to practice as a backup, how to conduct yourself as a backup to get yourself ready?
Absolutely. And I think that we do that. We talk about that. Coach Meyer talks about that, a competitive excellence. You know, I think you go home and, you know, my wife or my kids will tell you when your number's called, you got to be ready, and that's the definition of competitive excellence. Listen to Rashad Jennings. I think he was signed from Jacksonville to the Raiders this year, and one night going home late, I think they were doing an interview with him, and he talked about there are no backups, and he approached that as there was no backups. The backups were the people that weren't in the league or weren't on the team, and so he approached every game as a starter, and that was what enabled him to, when Maurice Jones-Drew went down, come in and be really productive. And so I came in the next day and tried to share that message with the guys in the D-line room to say we all have to prepare as starters, and we may not be starters, but, you know, take the mindset that there's no backups and that you prepare as a starter because your number can be called pretty quick. And Kenny's done that since, you know, as far as back as I can remember.
Back row, Kevin.
Mike, Kevin Newton, BuckeyeGrove.com. Michael Hill, I don't recall seeing him out there. Was it an injury concern or just not something that?
No, that was simply a coach's decision. And you know, we continue to work with Michael. We continue to make sure that he knows, one, know what to do, and two, that he's playing up to the ability, the level that we expect of our guys that go in there for our defensive line.
Last 2 questions. Todd, middle.
Mike, Todd Porter, Canton Rep. Who, since the spring of your guys up along the front there, who's made the most progress that you had in the spring to this point? And kind of a second part of that is, are you guys deeper at that position than you thought you would be at this point?
Yeah, we're missing Tommy Shutt right now. We're missing Tommy with his injury. He was going to help us at both spots inside. I think Chris Carter's shown the most improvement. I mean, Chase Ferris has. We didn't have him in the spring. Chase went in and played with good effort, great effort. He's learning how to play D-line again after being on the offensive side. Joel's playing consistent. Michael Bennett's, out there every single snap at practice, practicing hard. I don't know. I just think that everybody's trying to show as much improvement as they possibly can. So where we've come from the spring is pretty much irrelevant right now.
Dave, did you have one more?
I was going to ask about Mike Hill. I'll call an audible and ask about Chase Ferris. Do you think that's a permanent move, that he'll be a D tackle for the rest of his career, or is it too early to tell?
Well, I think for this week and for the weeks to come until I think we get Tommy back, we're pretty thin right there. Chase is, he's bigger, stronger, he's more developed than what he was when he left and went over to the other side of the ball. So I think that's helped him come back over and contribute and play hard and try to play physical. So, in the meantime, he'll be there, in the short term.